matchups, and it keeps you in a groove. Taking a loss in round 3 doesn't eliminate you from top cut contention, but it does make your battle much more difficult.
Well, speaking of the matchups, this is going to be a very interesting one that we don't run into too often. It's going to be Azul playing with the Mew VMAX Genesect, but of course we know that the Fusion package is in this list, so potential to deal plenty of damage. Sejun not too worried about that though. That's going to be playing that very aggressive Miraidon deck, loving to get those early knockouts on Pokemon V and maybe push the accelerator a little bit.
Yes, yeah, we'll see plenty of accelerating. I mean, this will certainly be a high-octane match. Whoever goes second is going to have a decent chance to get a turn 1 knockout, whether it be Azul going for his Alessis Sparkle with the Fusion Strike energies for a big Meloetta attack, or if it is Sejun going for those electric generators to pull off an attack with Miraidon EX.
Already the MVP for Sejun in the prizes there, that flying Pikachu. It's a fun tech that we've seen used in the national championship victory, and it's a cool way to free retreat, move around, save some of those energies for your Raichu, which occasionally takes big knockouts.
Sejun with his Pachirisu sitting there by his side, cheering
Let's go.
him on. It's so fitting. Of course, famously won the 2014 World Championships in the video game with that Pachirisu, his signature Pokemon, and I'm sure it has become his absolute favorite. Looks like Sejun is going first, starting off with that Miraidon EX, and that's really all you need with this deck to get going thanks to Tandem Unit.
Yep, Battle VIP Pass is dumb. You can just get whatever you want with the Tandem Unit, of course if it's Lightning, but generally you find that other Miraidon if you like, and you can go ahead and use Tandem Unit again, fill the bench on turn 1, not have to worry about any of those other search cards, and sure enough, finding that Mareep, that's going to be the lifeline of the deck, getting all those lightning energies back into play.
Yeah, going to be setting up for those Dynamotors on the Flaffy, a great way to recover energy cards. So this matchup, I think, is going to be pretty back and forth here. I think a lot of what's going to happen in this match is going to depend on if Azul can pull off the turn 1 attack with Meloetta. And he's got a good start. You know, starting that Mew with the free retreat makes it pretty reasonable he would be able to pull it off.
I mean, you always worry. You never know what's going to be in the box for a Mew player in that opening hand, but
right.
Having the free retreat certainly does feel nice. We are going to see a little bit of a conservative route there here with the double Mareep, not going to go too aggressive, but plenty of cards in the hand still, so looking to see what's left of this opening turn.
Yeah, I feel like Mareep and establishing multiple Flaffy feels pretty important in this matchup because of how key Raichu V can be for you in this game.
Oh, looks like we see at least one of those boss's orders and some energies in the hand too, so can do a little bit of setup, get the ball rolling, but
ooh, I think there is
Squawkabilly.
Yeah,
there we go.
Squawk and Seize. This is a newish card from the Paldea Evolved expansion. You get to discard your hand and draw 6 cards, but you can only use this ability during your first turn. Very strong and super solid in a deck like Miraidon, which kind of leans into aggression and power. And just getting through the deck, finding those electric generators, finding more Pokemon, it's really all you need. It's a card that makes a lot of sense in this list. 6 cards here now for Sejun. I see a lot of lightning energy there.
Yeah, you saw, was worried about not seeing any of those lightning energies, decided to attach one of those before using Squawk and Seize, and sure enough, finds 3 of them. Not exactly what you're looking for, but at least you can bring this one prize Pokemon into the active spot, hopefully avoid giving Azul too much of an early lead if he does have the pop-off.
And it will be a pass from Sejun onto Azul's turn, and I think I already see a Battle VIP pass. Looks like a Genesect there as well. A Nest Ball too. Azul has plenty of plays available. Yep. Starting with that VIP pass, just what every Mew player wants to make happen. Let's get a few Genesect in play. I think there was even a Feather Ball, so you've got that option to go get yourself the other Mew V. So this VIP pass could get the Meloetta potentially. We could see Genesect. Azul is taking a moment now to check the prizes, wants to make sure he knows exactly what he has available.
If there ever was a matchup where you can take your time, it's going to be one like this where this game's probably going to last 4 turns. You know that prizes are going to fly left and right, but the build-up to those turns is what takes time, and you want to make sure that you're not missing any beat there. So get all the information that you can. Sure enough, you find those double Genesect V. Those are the trickiest Pokemon to search out in the list, so you don't have to worry about that any longer. And maybe you can start to refill this hand, play a lot of cards, and get that turn 1 attack.
Looks like plenty of Pokemon there available for Azul. Even has that Ice Cube. I don't think we'll see that in this game, but that is an important card in this list. You want to make sure you have some answer for Spiritombs, and that's something that runs around in some of these Lost Zone decks, specifically the Lost TNM. We've even seen it, that Spiritomb making a play in Arceus deck, so you can tell Azul is ready for whatever matchup he could go up against.
Were you able to get one of those Ice Cube pops at the mall?
I was not. No, did you get one?
I did.
Ah, disappointed.
Delicious.
Sejun may be wishing that that Spiritomb on screen could just move over to the bench and aid a hand here, but not the case in this spot.
Yeah, this was one of the main worries that players had when deciding if they would even play Mew VMAX any longer, as there's so many ways that you can disrupt this deck. Sure enough, shutting off all the abilities would be tough, but you have a built-in effect there with the fusion energies to assist and completely ignore that.
Azul having a Cramomatic in hand as well. Looks like there's already actually even a Fusion Strike energy. I have to wonder, though, how worth it is it to go for the turn 1 Alessas when your opponent just has a Mareep in the active?
Right, and that's where maybe if you really want the prize card, you go for Ice Cube, just send up a Pokemon you don't care about, but you could always play this a little slower and play the same game that Sejun did. Just bring up a single prize Pokemon, but pass the turn, and then start to focus on those boss's orders.
Yeah, make it as difficult as possible for your opponent to take a 2-prize knockout. And I feel like that's a big part of this matchup, right? Just trading 2-2-2 is a viable strategy for both of these players.
That equals 6. Yep, that's pretty good.
Nest Ball now for Azul brings down a second Mew V, another Genesect in hand, and Fusion Strike energy attached. We won't be seeing any sort of plays with the Meloetta with this attachment, but we could see a Psychic Leap, actually, just putting this Mew V back into the deck, taking a knockout and pushing a single prize Pokemon. Leaving just one Mew V in play, though, would be risky.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the hand just yet. We're going to see one additional card added, but it's got to be a good one. And, ooh, that is a good one. It's Ultra Ball.
And there is a Cramomatic in hand. Looks like Azul, though, will choose to just discard a pair of supporter cards, losing a boss and a judge. He does play Palpad in this list, so those are things that can be recovered later in this game. But you might be leaning on finding the Palpad in order to get one of those resources. And it looks like it. It is the Ice Cube coming out, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to attack with it, but you'd love to switch into this Pokemon so that you're not worried about giving up that additional prize card. So go ahead and play it down. Maybe you can do a little more thinning in this hand. But I saw the Cramomatic there already, so you can just Genesect for 4 cards, see any item card, and that can turn into Alessa Sparkle right there.
So I wonder if Azul even wants to hit the Alessa Sparkle, though. Is it better to just retreat into the Ice Cube and leave that active? That might be the play.
I'm okay with that.
If you Psychic Leap, you leave yourself with just the one Mew V in play, and you give Sejun an opening to Boss's Orders KO it.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. We should avoid that at all costs.
Looks like 5 cards now being drawn for Azul. GG. That Cramomatic can ditch VIP Pass here on turn 1. You don't see it too often, and it looks like a heads. He will have access to any card he wants in his deck right now. Even if he's not going to go for the Psychic Leap, I think this is a great turn to play the Alessa Sparkle.
I agree, yeah. You can see that this is going to be one of those important cards to play early on in the match. If not for just the fact that you're removing those fusion energies from the deck, you don't have to worry about drawing into those.
Sure.
You get some acceleration onto your Pokemon, and we will see what the priority is. It's not often that the single prize is going to be relevant when you don't see a Pokemon like the Regieleki on the other side to even up the math, but Azul might have a plan.
Yeah, interested to see where he goes with this. I think it would be risky to go for Psychic Leap, so we'll see if he goes with the conservative line. And like we mentioned, and like you said, the single prize really is not going to help his math. He kind of needs to take 3 2-prize knockouts. If you take just the 1 prize, ooh, he is going for it, though.
Wow.
This does leave a bit of an opening here for Sejun. Maybe Azul thinking that it's pretty unlikely with just the 1 energy on a Miraidon at the moment. It does require Sejun to hit quite a bit, but I mean, if he finds a Raikou V, which we know he can get with the tandem unit, 1 Lightning Energy, 1 Flaffy, there's plenty of things he can do to pull off a Boss's Orders play.
This is certainly an interesting strategy to go for here, where you can just remove all of the ways to get these energies back into play, make Sejun completely reliant on those electric generators, and then it's going to be really hard to knock out a Mew VMAX in one shot. So seeing the Lost City there, Mareep immediately goes into the Lost Zone, and you can go ahead and try to tackle a second one there, with that Flaffy maybe.
Yeah, and I think Sejun actually just has the plays lined up. It would involve him putting his Lumineon V in play, but you've already got that Squawkabilly EX in play. You know, it's kind of the same thing at this point, having too many of those Pokemon. So if he could just use this Lumineon, too many of those single prize support Pokemon, I should say. If he could use Lumineon, fetch out the boss's orders, he could target down Mew-V if he wants.
Sejun gonna go ahead and use the tandem unit now, but I'm not sure if there's a Pokemon you're really looking for at this instance. Mainly just get this information and decide if this supporter of choice with the Professor's Research is going to be the play, or if you do go for the Lumineon. Line up that Raichu now.
Now, it is interesting because if Sejun did retreat the energy off his active and you kind of go all in on the Raikou play, he does leave himself a little vulnerable. You know, if Azul was able to pull off a Meloetta play, get that down, get Alessa Sparkle again, get those extra energies back into play, he could take a knockout with a single prizer and then leave Sejun with no energy in play. So maybe that's what Sejun is a little worried about. We'll see how he wants to navigate it. And taking out this Ice Cube is okay for your prize map. You don't have to go 2 prizer, 2 prizer, 2 prizer. You do have an option to take this 1 prize KO.
Well, we're going to see plenty of lightning energies into the discard pile. And yeah, as you're mentioning, that Raichu definitely evens out the playing field with the Dynamic Spark dealing plenty of damage, potentially that knockout even on the Mew VMAX for 6 of those lightning energies. You can start to do some work, and we see the right trainers there in hand,
Yep.
Chip.
Those electric generators are some of the most important and most powerful cards in this deck, allowing Sejun to look at the top 5 cards and attaching up to 2 lightning energy to his benched lightning Pokemon in any way that he likes. Looks like it's just 1 energy hit here. Debating putting it onto this Raichu V, trying to decide where he wants to place it.
Yeah, this is always interesting, as you don't want to give your opponent more reason to knock out a good Pokemon, but you want to have the energies in the right place. So looks like at least 1 of those to the Raichu V, but if we see the 2nd generator, would be interested to see if that went somewhere else.
Yeah, not getting the Raikou totally ready to go. Of course, that Flaffy is still in play, so can pull that extra energy out with Dynamotor at any time to power up the Lightning Rondo. Sejun's definitely got plenty of plays available and is thinking through all the options. Are we going to see that 2nd generator come out? Looks like Dynamotor for now. Attaching this now to Raikou. Of course, has the option to fleet-footed as well once this comes into the active spot. I don't see the Beach Court. That would be a really nice card to have, so you can keep this lightning energy around.
I see Lost Vacuum in there, but go ahead and get that extra card into the hand now. It's not going to be too useful with that Drapion with the full bench, but maybe we could see that worked in later on.
And that is actually a huge card that Sejun is playing. Not something you always expect to see. And also a double hit here on this 2nd generator. Really smart sequencing as well from Sejun, retreating this Miraidon before playing this generator, because that is a really valuable place to put those energy cards.
Yep, love this here. See plenty of energies in play. The knockout is going to be lined up, and you start to see the prize map unfolding here for Sejun. If you can allow this Raikou to get knocked out by the Mew on the following turn, maybe you've got that Drapion V lined up ready to go. Counter that stadium, the Lost City with the Lost Vacuum. And maybe this Pokemon sticks around for a turn. Maybe you can bring it back into the deck at some point too.
Azul just getting clarification on this Zapdos here. Of course, Sejun's cards are in Korean. He is from Korea, so Azul just wanted maybe to make sure exactly how much damage this thing can do since Sejun has loaded energy on it. I imagine that it's just kind of a safe place to keep the energy cards so you can Raichu them away later, but, you know, better to just double check.
I thought Azul was Mr. Worldwide. He doesn't know all these languages? Come on.
Now over to Azul. Sejun has tied the game up. Both of these players having taken a single prize card, each sending a 1 prizer to the Lost Zone for their opponent. And now Azul looks like he has a few different plays available, a few Pokemon. There's also a Fusion Strike energy in hand. Is it going to be Meloetta time? Is this what Azul's plan was all along?
This would work out pretty well, as you have this opportunity to work in another single prize Pokemon, which you say, hey, Kyle, that seems weird. I don't know why you'd want to bring the map back down to 4, but that's because you have the Mew VMAX that's going to be attacking.
Yep.
So you actually work in the 1-1-3-2, 3-3. You could get the 8 prize exchange there if you do this right.
The thing that Azul needs to be worried about, though, is the fact that Sejun does have 2 kind of easy knockouts lined up. He can take a pretty easy knockout with Raichu, 1-hit KOing just about anything, and then, of course, Drapion V can come in and close out the game on any of Azul's Fusion Strike Pokemon. So I like Azul's decision to try to work in this Meloetta, make Sejun work as hard as possible for it. He is, however, going to need to find that 2nd Alessa Sparkle. He does only play 2 and did play 1 on turn 1.
see one of those fusion energies in hand. It would be unfortunate to
There's
see
the
another
Sparkle.
in hand. So really hoping to avoid that.
Yes, just hoping to avoid drawing into that Fusion Strike energy. Would have still been okay because there is one in play on the Mew, so he's still able to get there, but now you can get the full 4 Fusion Strike energy out. Now the question is it better to attack with the Meloetta, or do you evolve and attack with your Mew VMAX?
Yeah, this is tricky, as it really depends on what supporters you have to back this up. If you can disrupt Sejun after this and give up these, the large amount of prize cards here in the beginning, then sure, but it looks like maybe Meloetta is probably going to be the safer choice. You could take the knockout on the active and then maybe work the Mew VMAX in. Let the hit points do the work for you.
Boss's Orders going back into the deck from Palpad. That will be an important card later on. And Azul still has a couple of Fusion Strike systems to utilize here. This one drawing up to 4 cards. Finding another Lost City. A Featherball can get the VMAX. And Boss's Orders could be an option as well.
Loaded up here now, multiple for Sealstone. And it's going to have access to plenty of cards later on in the match. And finding that Boss's Orders means that you'll be able to pick the right prize cards in the rest of the game. So really just going to be about navigating the rest of these prize cards and what you give Sejun. And I love this. We see the Meloetta promoted here now. Just make it a little bit more difficult as Sejun has already lost the Boss's Orders.
Azul, of course, playing that Alessa Sparkle, not able to go for the boss just this turn. I think he would have loved to have taken out Raichu, maybe, if he could have get that one-hit KO threat out of play. And I wonder if this is what Sejun was prepped for with this energy attachment to the Zapdos as well, letting him use a one-prizer of his own to respond to this KO from Azul.
Anything you can do, I can do better.
Sejun with that Bravery Charm in hand. Interesting tech that we've seen pop up in these Miraidon lists ever since Paldea Evolve released. The basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 50 HP, boosting your Miraidon EX all the way up to 270 hit points. A 270 HP basic seems pretty strong to me.
Yeah, that works out in a lot of matchups. Now, right now, we're looking at 4 Fusion Energies and a Meloetta, so everything would go away. But it can work out pretty nicely for some players. I have seen people throw it on the Mareep, and then they evolve, and they're like, hey, that doesn't work anymore.
What Azul's done here as well is making things a little difficult for Sejun. With 5 prize cards left, Sejun doesn't really have an option to Boss's Orders and KO a Genesect and then KO a VMAX, because then, well, Azul would just still have a bunch of Fusion Strike energy cards in play. Now, maybe if Sejun could Boss's Orders KO this Mew V, take those Fusion Strike energies out, that would be decent, but Azul could go for a few modifiers to still respond with that Meloetta, even with just 2 Fusion Strike energies. He hasn't gone through too many power tablets yet. Yeah,
we've seen pretty good conservation there from Azul, just been drawing into just the right of cards at the right time. The Palpad was used to preserve even more resources, so maybe we'll have those at the end of the game to close out.
Sejun grabbing this Raikou V, putting it into play, trying to figure out what is the best thing to attack with at this point. He has the option to attack with the Zapdos if he wants it here. Didn't see if there was a Boss's Orders. That option could be decent to chase this Mew V with the 2 Fusion Strike energy on it.
Yeah, Boss's Orders has to be the card that you'd be looking for in a situation like this. Don't think we're going to have that opportunity. Zapdos makes sense if you want to remove this Pokemon, but it's awful for the prize map. Sometimes you just have to worry about what your opponent's throwing at you, and 280 on a single prizer is something to worry about.
Energy card from hand can be attached somewhere. We do see that Drapion V hanging out, ready to go for future turns. Plenty of energy in the discard pile to accelerate with the Dynamotor. A second Raichu as well, so that is a interesting choice as well, playing 2 Raichu in this deck. I have to imagine thinking and preparing for the heavy Arceus that people were expecting in this meta. That Dynamotor does bring an energy back to the Raikou V on the bench. Multiple Pokemon ready to go and attack here.
Looks like Arvin is potentially the supporter of choice. I'm going to go ahead and use that now. Looks like has some options as far as maybe a few more ways to get these trainers down. Escape Rope would be a nice way now.
Escape Rope is interesting because then Azul, I think, would just pretty happily send up a Genesect here. Let that get KO'd. You keep all 4 of your Fusion Strike energy in play, and you let Meloetta take 2 multi-prize KOs. And I think if you're, as Mew player in this matchup, ever getting two prize KOs with your single prize Meloetta, you're feeling pretty solid about your chances to win.
Right. I mean, we haven't seen an evolution yet. So although Sejun is going to go down to 3 prize cards, there's no VMAX knockout that's going to be lined up for the Drapion V. So if Azul plays it smart, he can just continue to use the Meloetta there and keep this exchange in his favor.
And I wonder if Sejun feels like in this position he has to hope that Azul maybe needs to put a VMAX in play to draw cards, something like that. But Azul doesn't really need much. He kind of has everything he needs on board, and even 2 Forest Seal Stones that have not been used.
Feels comfortable promoting the Mew.
Sure.
Pokemon that you're not too worried about losing. You'll have all access to your deck with all of those Genesect V now. And you, as you mentioned, the Forest Seal Stone too. If you get desperate, you would like to hold on to that for the final turn of the game, which likely would be in 2 turns if Azul plays it out the way he'd like.
Bravery Charm comes down, but with all those Fusion Strike energies in play, Melodious Echo still dealing more than enough damage. Sejun takes the knockout. Mew V should go to the Lost Zone. Yep, sure enough, we'll get it sorted out. And Sejun is able to tie the game up, but as long as Azul does not put a Mew VMAX in play, Sejun will not have a win condition next turn.
I think that Azul will recognize this. You know, we see now the Feather Ball, so you can go ahead and search out the Mew V. Get another one of those down.
Yeah, really important to get another one into play here, as if your active goes down, then you don't have necessarily a great follow-up to close out the game on the next turn. Azul does have a pretty large hand size, it looks like, so he might have a hard time drawing any cards with Fusion Strike system. But he does have a couple disruption supporters. I do think we've seen the Judge hit the discard pile already. Could this be a good time to go for an Iono?
Speaking of Judge, looks like Sejun was given a slow play warning, so we are going to see a little bit of time added onto the clock now.
Had a lot to think about in that last turn, but you know, we do have to stay on top of these things. Azul thinking about where to put a Choice Belt into play. Looks like it will be onto the active Mew V. And simply a retreat, keeping that V-Star power up for the next turn. Doesn't really, like we said, need anything else this turn.
Right. You have exactly what you're looking for right here. You need to have both these Pokemon ready to evolve on the following turn. You understand that Meloetta is going to be sacrificed at this point. It has done its job. It's going to take the prize cards to get you down to just 1 more remaining, and then you can rely on the Forest Seal Stones right here to close out.
Azul will be playing an Ultra Ball here, taking a moment to just thin everything out of his deck that he doesn't want to draw anymore. Escape Rope's not super useful. Lost City, you're not really worried about having a second one of those at this point. Get these cards out of the deck. So if Sejun does play an Iono, they're not going to be available. And it looks like Sejun is recognizing the moment, cannot win this game, going to concede. We're headed to game 2. Azul getting the first round.
Yep. Oh, you didn't evolve? Shucks. I can't believe it. The 2-time international champion knew what he was doing.
Yep. And looking back at that game, I actually like Azul's decision to Psychic Leap there. It could have been a little risky if Sejun does find the Boss's Orders KO on that Mew V. Azul probably would have lost this game, but he kind of recognized based on what Sejun did turn 1, wasn't going to be super likely he could pull all of that off. And then that allowed him to get a prize, also put that Mew V back into the deck with those Fusion Strike energies more importantly, so those resources were available to him later in the game.
Yeah, it's almost a bait like we've seen many times with Mew VMAX. You don't always know what's going to be behind the door, and there was an opportunity. Maybe Azul just finds the Meloetta, finds the return knockout there in a situation where the only Mew is knocked out, and then Azul is going to be ahead in that situation, as a lot of resources would have been sacrificed there from Sejun. But who knows? Now we're going to jump into the next game here. We'll see what these players have to work with in game 2.
Looks like we might have a broken sleeve, so we'll have to get that sorted out as we look at our recap from game number 1. These players are waiting here to get set up, it looks like, actually, for game number 2. Here is the recap, though. Cramomatic flips the heads. Always feels really nice.
Yep, this led to a turn 1 knockout in an unusual fashion, as we see the Mew hiding back in the deck, worried about what could happen there, and led to a pretty interesting back and forth with these single prize Pokemon in a deck that does not often use these Pokemon.
Pachirisu was cheering Sejun on, but was unable to help him in this game. Standing by, watching, and Sejun, I think, making a wise decision to concede this one. Maybe could have scooped a little bit quicker, but this is a matchup that we're not really going to have to worry about a tie happening, most likely.
Yeah, I think that Sejun is in a good spot to potentially just go very aggressive on in this situation. If you go second, then maybe you get that opening knockout, and you can lead Azul into a spot where he's surprised by the Drapion V. I don't think that we saw that
we did
at
not.
all.
We did not. So that might be something that Azul is not expecting now. Azul does very much pay attention to the meta, and he also looks at the best lists from the best players. And Sejun won Korean Nationals with this deck, and in that list, Sejun did have the Drapion V. So I'm sure it's something Azul has in the back of his mind. I didn't see it game one, but I'm not going to totally discount it just yet.
Yep. Did Sejun understand that Mew was going to be pretty popular? It is, what, the number 1 or 2 deck in the room right now?
Number 2 today.
Unreal.
Quite a difference from what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, number 7 yesterday. Not even making the graphic, sure enough. A lot of popularity switching over. Maybe we're not so worried about those Drapions and Spiritombs after all.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some play around the Spiritombs with the Fusion Strike Energy, and you have some options against Drapion with the Lost City and Path to the Peak, depending on what the situation is. So even though a Mew player doesn't ever love seeing either of those 2 cards, you do have some play around it.
Yeah, I mean, Azul's up right now. He doesn't care about any of that. It works out just fine. Sometimes you are going to face off against those kind of cards, but it just shows the power of this deck and the versatility as it continues to live on.
I think we got a sleeve delivered to the stage, but may have been the wrong color. So we got to make sure all 60 sleeves are in good condition and also the correct color. We'll get it sorted out here shortly to get into our second game. Sejun's got a bit of a history with this Miraidon deck, like we mentioned a few times. He got first place at the Korean National Tournament. Azul has a bit of history with Mew VMAX as well, though. He played it a lot whenever regionals came back in March, April of 2022. He played this deck quite a bit, but whiffed day 2 at quite a few tournaments with it. So it's interesting to see how things have kind of changed. Obviously, the meta is pretty different. Tons of new sets are legal for this tournament compared to back then. But Azul wasn't scared of the fact that, he had poor success with the deck in the past. He recognized that he felt like it was a good meta for the deck, and even though some results in the past might have said it wasn't the best, he felt like it was still solid to roll with.
Yeah, and that's always been the type of player that Azul's been, at least with this testing group. He wants to look at the data and see what that tells him. And sure enough, it said that Mew VMAX was going to be one of the most powerful decks in the room. It just has so much versatility. It works great for a player of Azul's caliber, where you can target down some of those weaknesses, maybe surprise some of your opponents, and make them walk into some awkward situations where they don't even know that they're losing the game until they've done it.
Yeah, let's get this man a sleeve. let's get the sleeve out here.
Can we use code GG for 10% off that sleeve?
Yeah, we need an express shipping at this point. Of course, Azul, one of the largest content creators in the Pokemon TCG space. Sejun as well, someone who creates plenty of content over in Korea, streams himself playing the TCG, the VGC, all his various games. He, of course, did even place top 8, I believe, in Pokemon Unite at last year's World Championships.
I imagine he is his own team in Pokemon Unite.
No. I mean, you still need, you got to have 5 people with you at least.
He refuses.
He's just got, he's
he
playing
runs,
on 5 different
from
phones.
monitor to monitor.
He is just that good. Of course, Sejun, we've mentioned his successes in all the other games. He did finish top 32 back at the 2016 World Championships in the trading card game. I think that's his best TCG finish at Worlds. And he was playing a pretty unique one back then. It was that Fighting Zygarde EX Vileplume deck.
Oh.
He was one of the only people playing that in day 2 of Worlds, and he did take it to a top 32.
Yeah, the last time I saw Zygarde was when we had the fly match, where the fly kept flying around on the stream. Yeah, it turned into a little bit of a meme.
We've had a few too many of those fly matches. Isaiah Bradner squashing flies on the table at regionals this year. Yeah, they make their way up onto the stage here and there. Let's see if this is the one. Oh, looks like we've just brought the backpack.
Just give him a new deck. I have Mew VMAX backstage, and you just want to try it.
Here we go. Sleeve being fetched out. We'll get it all sorted. And we'll get into this game number 2. So for Sejun, as we get into game number 2 here, you set up pretty nicely in game 1. You had quite a few options of what you wanted to go for, but you unfortunately came up short. You lost game number 1. What adjustments would you like to see from Sejun as we get into the second game of the match?
Well, it's unfortunate just the way that the draws panned out. As we saw, the boss's orders was in hand, and then the opportunity that you had to attack that Mew V, the solo Mew V that turn, you were not able to go for that. We didn't see the resources there, so I would try to prioritize finding that forward Seal Stone. If you can get that down onto your board, then you have almost a guarantee that you'll be able to target down with boss's orders on turn 2. So that early squawkability seems like a strong strategy, but then you just need to prioritize boss's orders or escape ropes to get 2 prize cards at a time.
So it looks like, unfortunately, we will be having a re-sleeve of Azul's decks. We're going to take just a moment, step away from the game. We'll get back into it very shortly. Got to make sure that there's no marked cards out there, right?
Are you ready to switch to live? Can we just try that?
Yeah, you can't break any sleeves on the computer. Azul might find a way. I don't know.
Would. He's played enough.
Azul is actually a player who I know is very meticulous with his sleeves. I see him after rounds pull his deck back out of the deck box and just look at the sides, look at the bottom, each side, go through the back of each sleeve to make sure there's no marks at all. He does not want to get a penalty for having a marked sleeve.
Yeah, he's talked about it before. He's taken notes from other teammates. Caleb showed him how to sleeve a deck, which is something that's hilarious for a player who's been playing for 20 years to finally learn how to sleeve. But there's a right way, I guess. It's kind of like the...
You kind of just do everything you can to minimize the chance of making a mark, right?
Yeah, I think back to like the basketball coaches telling you how to put your socks on so that you avoid any of those issues.
You had to be taught how to put your socks on?
Yeah, there was like the UCLA coach would tell you how to do it perfectly so that you wouldn't get blisters and stuff. It's like, really? We're going that deep? But yeah.
I don't think I've heard that one before. But yeah, maybe I need to look it up. My socks have gotten kind of bunched up here, so I might need to take a lesson.
It doesn't really work for us. This isn't really an athletic thing that we do, Chip.
Listen, man, we're running around the floor out here, going from backstage out to the matches to watch things happening. You got your steps in?
I'm at 5,000 steps. I have not performed well today.
We'll get back to the stage here shortly, get into this next one. We do, of course, have plenty of other games happening out in the field. We saw our key matches earlier on, things we were going to be keeping our eye on. Tons of onlookers, people here for the World Championships, ready to cheer on their favorite players, cheer on their family, cheer on their friends as well, and honestly, just watch some great Pokemon play out.
Yeah, it feels like every 5 seconds you're looking around and you're just bouncing from screen to screen as, oh, something cool happened in Go. What's going on in Unite? And then TCG, every once in a while, we get excited about some stuff.
Yeah, I obviously focus on the Pokemon TCG, but I do try to get a moment to watch a game or two of all the other Pokemon games happening, and it's just so exciting, and it's such a momentous occasion for everyone, right? We've talked about over and over again how it feels so special to be here in Japan for the World Championships, but it's not just true for us. It's true for the competitors, it's true for our co-casters across all the various pillars of Pokemon, and for the players in all those various pillars as well. Really quite a special event.
Yeah, I mean, it's an honor for us, but of course, as players before, that was the thing that we lived for. Every single year, that's what we were looking for. We wanted to go to nationals and then, of course, to the World Championships. And I feel like I lived my life like 5 weekends at a time per year as I would just really focus on these specific events, seeing all my friends from all across the nation and then eventually the world as well as we started to branch out even more. And it's so great to see all these people once more. And I mean, I've been doing it for 2 decades, man.
Yeah,
I know way too many people in this venue.
You bumped into anyone from a different country over the course of the weekend that you haven't seen in a couple years? Someone that you caught up with for a moment, maybe?
I mean, not as cool as some UK friends. So, but yeah, it's just as special. I feel like it's not as big now that we see everybody at all of the international events that we have now.
Sure, we do see everyone a few times a year now.
Right. So it's just as special to see them, but it means a little bit more when it was just that one time a year. It's like, oh, you've grown like 8 inches now, dude. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, what's always been cool for me is just seeing some of the juniors that we casted games for. A couple years ago, they're in the senior division now, and it's not going to be too much longer that we look at them, and they're in the Masters division doing really well. When I started playing, Isaiah Bradner was a senior, and he lives kind of in my area, so I'd see him at Cups every once in a while. He was playing in the seniors division. I was playing in Masters, and now I look at him, and he's one of the top players in North America in the Masters division. It's just been really cool to watch players kind of grow up with this game.
Yep, I had a similar run-in with John Ang when I moved to Maryland for school, and he was, 9 years old at the time, whatever it was, which dates me horribly, but I go to his local league to go check it out, and he's like, oh my god, it's Kyle Sablehouse. Now I'm like, oh my god, it's John Egg.
It's really how it is. Yeah, I mean, John's had a kind of interesting start today. He played Michael Pramo out round one, I saw. You said you were sitting next to both of them when the pairings went up, right?
Right, we're looking at the pairings and figuring out who's playing each other. They're sitting right next to each other, and they go, seriously, bro? Later on, we look at the rest. Pablo sitting 2 feet away from us on the other side. I'm like, you got Azul.
Yeah. Brian DeVries up against Tord Reklev round one. I mean, there was just tons of top-tier matches. I mean, Pedro Torres played against Alessandro Cremasoli from Italy round one. So many great games.
Yeah, every single row that we went to, there were at least 3 matches that caught my eye, and I just had to continue watching. And well, we got one more here.
I think we've got some sleeves on the deck. Let's get into this game, number 2.
No time extension.
No, there's gonna, yeah, we see it ticking up right now. Quite the time extension. I think that's 13 minutes, something like that. 12, 13 minutes added to our clock to make up for this break. And Kyle, I am as ready as I have ever been to get into a Pokemon TCG match.
Right, we talked about how fast this can go in this matchup, and it's been a little bit of a drag.
If there was not the resleeve, we might already be done.
I would think so. Well, we'll see what these players have to say about that. Starting off with multiple Featherball, looked like, in the hand for Azul. And as we mentioned, getting that early knockout in the beginning is going to be so important. Sejun says, yeah, I'm going to go second.
Yeah, that's a really interesting call. Losing game 1, choosing to go second. He did go first in that first game. Maybe just not being totally aware of what Azul was playing, wanted to try to get a little bit of an edge, but now recognizing the matchup, this is what he wants to do.
Well, not with this hand. That looks like one of the worst ones I've seen in a long time.
On Sejun's end?
On Sejun's side, yeah. It's Flaffy, Boss's Orders, Penny, 3 Lightning.
Yeah, that's not great. And imagine having to sit there and look at that hand while your opponent's re-sleeving for 10 minutes.
for 10 minutes, and then they throw down the equivalent of a Battle VIP pass.
A 2-card combo VIP pass here coming out.
Which doesn't even grab Genesect. Unlucky.
We'll see what else Azul has waiting in his hand. A couple Feather Balls. A pretty versatile card in this deck. You can get the Mew V and the VMAX, but it's also a card that you can just always play out. And honestly, on Azul's end, I don't know how many playable cards there were. Yeah,
you start to worry when you don't see the Battle VIP pass, of course. You have a few Pokemon to work with, but thinning down the hand for this opening Genesect V is going to be tricky without a card like Ultra Ball, and I don't see that just yet, but it looks like there is energy, maybe even a Stadium card if you want to play that down. So
looks like it will just be 1 card drawn on this Genesect.
YOLO.
VIP pass for the win? No. It is a Genesect, though. Okay. I think we take that.
That's the... Oh, and it finds the Battle VIP, too.
Very nice draw. Massive hit there for Azul. Can now get the 3rd Genesect in play.
And if you're Sejun, you just want to go home. Unless that top deck is really nice.
Yeah, I think hoping for maybe a Nest Ball to just get Squawkabilly EX and just find something else. Even a Research. You know, there are a lot of good draws here for Sejun, that is for sure.
Yeah, all the bad ones are in his hand.
A couple more cards added here off of Fusion Strike system. Looks like there is a VMAX waiting for the next turn. Azul will need to find a way to get this Genesect out of the active, and that path is actually huge.
Lightning!
And Sejun draws, and it is just a Lightning Energy.
What do you do? Penny!
No, the noble way to go out. Oh, this game could be over basically immediately. All Sejun can do is attach this Lightning Energy to this active Zapdos. There's no basic Pokemon in his hand. The only supporter he could play is Boss's Orders, and the only Pokemon he would want to bring up is a different Genesect. Azul draws for turn. It is an Ultra Ball. That will allow him to thin this hand down. He's just mapping it out.
I mean, there's an Alessa Sparkle in there. You could at least get the energies ready to roll, but it's you're dealing with a 2 retreat cost here, so you're going to see what he prioritizes here. You can, of course, thin down and maybe have opportunities.
Azul's just trying to do the math to figure out what is his maximum chance to win this game. And it's definitely going for the win this turn. He's going to map it out and try to think about what exactly he needs to do. Looks like the active Genesect was chosen on the Alessa Sparkle as a target. This means a Fusion Strike energy, a double Turbo energy, a Switch Cart, an Escape Rope. So many things Azul could find here to move this Genesect from the active. And all he would need is a VMAX in order to win the game this turn, and VMAX is already coming into play.
Yep, has that in hand, also has the Ultra Ball if you want to thin down, but I think you have the luxury of playing this tablet and then drawing here now. If the hand is completely clogged, you can get rid of those cards. Cram-O-Matic added to the hand. Still looking for the energy.
Azul needs so little here. He doesn't have it just yet, and what is awkward about this Cram-O-Matic is the only card he could ditch with it would be the Ultra Ball, so it might be better to actually just play the Ultra Ball, play out the rest of the cards, hang on to the Cram-O-Matic.
Yep, at this point, you don't have to worry about the prize exchange. You can go ahead and evolve that Mew VMAX that you have now.
Such a high odds chance to just win the game here. It would feel really bad to miss out. It is technically possible, though. It is far from guaranteed.
Looked like Choice Belt was also a card in the hand. You play that down. And the 4 more cards with Genesect number 2.
All Azul needs is an escape rope or an energy card. Either of those things wins him the game instantly. There's the double turbo energy. That is all he needs. Attached to the active, move it to the bench, and Mew VMAX able to take out Zapdos, and Sejun Park just really was not able to do much in game number 2.
Yep, that's how it goes sometimes, and on the world stage, it's very unfortunate to see that, but you have to give shout out to Azul. It's a very strong deck. It looks like it's going to be one that we need to look out for now, as it is 3-0, and a couple good players running it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a start from Azul. 3-0 at the World Championships. Sejun is far from eliminated at this point. 2-1, still a solid start, but he's going to need to pick it up. You got to get probably 4 more wins and then just hope to ID that last round if your resistance is good enough. But if you've got a player like Azul Garcia Griego on your resistance, you'll